All right, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and dive in and more people can join when they arrive. But before we get started, I want to go ahead and give a brief introduction to myself, and then I will pass it over to Jack. Go ahead to the next slide, please. My name is Carly Evans, and I am the Senior Nonprofits Manager over at the Giving Block. I have been here for over a year and a half now. I do come from a background in fundraising. I have previously been a major gifts officer, so I know how important this topic is and also how challenging it can be. So we are here to help give you some insight as to why major gifts are so important to focus on, especially at a time like this where giving is down from last year. So we'll go over where these gifts are coming from. We'll go into giving by generations, as well as how to identify and engage these major donors. And lastly, we'll leave you with some takeaways and then open the floor to questions. So now I'm going to toss it over to Jack, who's going to tell you a little bit about himself as well as Giveffect.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice to be with you. As Carly mentioned, my name is Jack Harrison. I am our client success team manager. I've been on the team at Giveffect for just over 5 years now. So I've had the pleasure of working with dozens, if not hundreds, of different nonprofits of all shapes, sizes, and missions. But just a little bit about us at Giveffect. If you haven't heard of us before, we are a 10-in-1 all system software. So everything from CRM to fundraising and event management, volunteering, email marketing. Won't go through the whole list, but we do a lot of great stuff. And so very excited to partner with the Giving Block here and to be chatting with you all today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jack. Well, I'll give you all a brief overview about the Giving Block. We are a non-cash asset fundraising platform connecting nonprofits with modern philanthropists. We are the pioneers of the crypto philanthropy movement. We have been doing this since 2018, and we make it easy for nonprofits to fundraise cryptocurrency as well as other non-cash assets such as stock and donor-advised funds. So today, thousands of nonprofits around the world work with us and utilize our expertise to engage these donors, growing their donation revenue, as well as future-proofing their fundraising strategy for the next generation of philanthropists. So I want to go ahead and kick things off with a poll. Let me go ahead and launch this. Okay, let me go ahead and switch the poll out real quick. Here we go. I'm going to launch. I want to know what your biggest priority is for your fundraising team right now. Is it new donor acquisition, increasing gift size? Are you looking to diversify revenue or build out a presence on social media? Some people are looking to attract younger donors. So let me know what your priorities are. I know everyone might be focusing on something a little bit different. Okay. New donor acquisition looks pretty big, along with increasing gift size. And we'll just give it another couple seconds here, and then we'll go ahead and share the results. Diversifying revenue, attracting younger donors, a couple of you wanted to know. And none of you are prioritizing building out a social media presence, which is interesting, but I can understand why donor acquisition and increasing your gift size is more important. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results here. But what I really wanted to do with that poll is to truly get where you all are at, and we'll touch on how prioritizing major gifts fundraising with non-cash assets can really help you move closer to those goalposts faster. And Jack is going to start into discussing why these gifts are of such importance.
Awesome. So first we have to ask ourselves the question, why do these major gifts matter? We just wanted to provide some background information for you here. Starting off with the state of philanthropy, just a couple of stats for you. As Carly mentioned at the top, we have seen better times here in the non-profit world. As you see here, right, giving is down, according to Giving USA, 3%, even further when accounting for inflation. You're also seeing the number of donors go down, although average gift size is up. We'll actually come back to that in a moment. And so, in short, it is a challenging outlook for philanthropy with these recent budgetary constraints for most folks across the country. So what should we all be looking to do in a challenging environment? Diversify is one option. Okay, so think to yourself, why should I even diversify? What do you mean by that, Jack? It's because in all cases, when we think about diversifying fundraising, or even in the cases we'll see in DAFs as we start here, remember we'll talk about other non-cash assets as we go. But in a lot of cases, you aren't even having to find new money. This is where, again, a giving method like donor advised funds comes into play. Again, we'll touch on other methods. But by diversifying your funding, you can help minimize the risk of losing dollars in certain fundraising categories or giving channels. Two ways you could do this: grow your pool of major donors, as well as through donor advised funds. Starting with donor advised funds, you see here on screen, there's actually an estimated 250 billion in assets for this bucket. That's quite a lot of cash. And let me actually pause, because I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. That for anybody who isn't familiar, what is a donor advised fund? A donor advised fund, or you'll hear us use the term DAF, is a charitable investment account for the sole purpose of supporting the charitable organizations you care about. And so think about institutions like Fidelity, Schwab. Folks will deposit their funds there, get that tax benefit, and then disperse their gifts from there for the causes and missions that they seek to support. And so in fact, 80% of that $250 billion number goes ungranted each year. They're just sitting in that DAF account accruing, and it's not getting to any nonprofits. In other words, that's dry powder sitting on the sidelines. Why is that? Folks may not yet have identified their charitable organization of choice, or they may have simply forgotten that they deposited these funds in the first place, because their primary focus was perhaps just getting that tax benefit first and foremost. But as we know, a major benefit to donors with using DAFs is they, again, like I said, they do get that immediate benefit as far as writing it off in their taxes, and they don't have to consider this trade-off that other donors might in a kind of inflationary or volatile environment that we're talking about, right? Because again, the funds are already in that account. They don't have to make that new gift on the spot to your organization. So what do we need to do? We need to help bring that dry powder off the sidelines. Again, we don't need to find these new dollars. We just have to try to influence where they go. And this bucket can really act as a buffer for your nonprofit as we think about fundraising diversification. Put even more simply, try to make your nonprofit more future-proof. Final point here before we continue is that we'll do a more substantive demographic breakdown later. Is that we see how younger generations don't work with wealth and tax advisors as often as older generations. So whether it's educating younger donors or investors to set up a DAF or to deploy the funds within them, even outside of DAFs, you have to be more intentional and willing to make the ask to these folks, these younger generations, since again, they are less likely to rely on those advisors, being in their ear, telling them where to give. So these are just some of the items we'll continue to expand on here today. Another question I want to help answer here is, what are major gifts, right? It means different things to different people, not to be a cop-out answer, right? We'll move forward here to say, again, it's different for every organization. There really is no industry standard for how much money counts as a major gift. And again, as we think about major gifts, we're typically thinking about the funds that are in line with our projects and programs that make the biggest impact for our organization. One thing I want to point out here actually is when we think about major gifts or major donors, I don't want us to be thinking only about institutional donors, right? Vast majority of these folks are still individuals at the end of the day. You even see the stat here that individual giving makes up a little over 2/3 of philanthropic contributions. So bringing it back to major gifts, it's all about cultivating that relationship. And the median we see here is that it can take anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. Of course, again, it differs. But actually, to go back to a previous slide, we mentioned that while giving was down, the average gift size went up. What that could indicate is that these donors where you have a longer and deeper relationship with them tend to give more than the folks who don't have that relationship, right? More of those one-off donors. And so that's why it's so important that you start this process sooner rather than later to identify these folks and start to build these meaningful connections. So, at the end of the day, who holds the key as to what major gifts means to your organization? It's your own relationship with your donors. And so why it's so critical to be able to expand on these giving opportunities.
So most of these major gifts are going to be coming into your nonprofit by way of assets. Sometimes it's a mixture of income and assets. But if they're just giving you assets, I'm about to tell you the best news ever. If a donor is giving you a gift of crypto or stock, it's going to be going directly to the charity without the donor having to pay capital gains tax. So what does that mean? So tax efficient giving for the donor, increased impact for your nonprofit, and being able to move your mission forward faster. Let me run you through some numbers of what this looks like. So say you purchased a stock last year and the original value is $250,000. So you picked a winner and that stock has appreciated significantly. The current value of that stock today, say, is $400,000. So you have an $150,000 gain on your original basis. Now, say you're the donor and you have decided you want to give a gift to your alma mater. Well, if you donate that stock directly to your old college, they will get the full amount of that $400,000 gift of stock. Versus if you sell the stock and then give, the donor is going to owe Uncle Sam $35,700 in capital gains tax, reducing the amount to $364,000. Now, imagine what you can do with that extra $35,700, not to mention the fact a six-figure gift. So really good to know when you break the numbers down like that, how much more beneficial it is for those donors to give directly to you. So let's go ahead and figure out where these gifts are coming from. We'll go ahead and do the next slide, and then I'm going to launch the right poll this time. So let's go ahead and find out where what assets you guys are. Oh, I guess I am not able to use the poll, but can you just type into the chat? Are you accepting stocks right now? Are you accepting crypto? Are you accepting neither? Do you accept donor advised funds? Maybe you're using Chariot or Daft Direct, just a widget on your website. Are you not accepting anything? Crypto and stock? Love all of the above, Jessica. That's what we want you all to be doing, because we want you to be able to meet the donor where they're at and give them the ability to donate to you in the assets they want to give. Okay, so we have a mixture. A good majority of you are accepting stocks, which is quite typical in the nonprofit space. I'm not seeing, we have Valencia with crypto, stocks, land and DAS. That's awesome. Cash and real estate. Fantastic. All right, love to see that. Sorry about the poll. That was a fail on my behalf. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. All right, so let's lay out the landscape of traditional online giving. So your average age of the traditional online donor giving cash is a little on the older side, so 65. So even though an online donor could just be giving a donation with an ask, it could be through the direct mail, they could be doing it through your website, maybe even donating through a paddle raise, through the gala or a tribute gift. But these gifts tend to be on the smaller side. $204 was the average donation in 2021, with the median gift being $20. So non-cash assets are going to be exponentially higher. And I do think a lot of fundraisers, being a former fundraiser myself, fall into fundraising cash, but non-cash gifts are not only going to help the donor with that tax efficiency, but also increase their gift size. Now, in the past, younger donors may not have been on your radar as major gift prospects, but as we dive deeper into these assets and how generations are giving, you can really see the opportunity. Next slide, please. So just wanted to list out the average gift sizes here, and they might shock you, especially if you are new to crypto donations. So the average cash donation last year was $128. Average stock donation was between $5,000 and $10,000. And then crypto donations were averaging about $6,500. So a gift of non-cash is going to be upwards of 40 times higher than your traditional cash gift. So just let that sink in for a moment. That's why this is such a big opportunity. Next slide. Okay, so diving deeper into how big this opportunity is, let's go ahead and take a look at the market size here. So just in crypto, it's over $1 trillion. So in the crypto space, a lot of people have bought in early and are sitting on a lot of heavily appreciated crypto. And I know people have said like, oh, it's a crypto winner. Year to date, Bitcoin and Ethereum are up like way farther in terms of other different asset classes. So that's really good to know for this. Over 69 million was donated last year with over 60 million users of cryptocurrency, and that's growing in the US. So that's approximately 20% of the US population. And some of those individuals have also generated wealth through crypto and then transitioned that into the stock market. Now, in terms of stocks, the total value of the US stock market is a little over 46 trillion. Over $100 billion was donated to charities in 2022 with 145 million users. So if you're not actively fundraising both of these assets, you're definitely missing out. So glad you're here to learn more. Go ahead and hit the next slide. So I wanted to give you a little bit more of additional context of the scope of this opportunity. We'll go ahead and start with stock. So a Gallup survey was published in May of this year, saying that 61% of Americans reported that they own stock. So this is made up of 84% of adults in households earning $100,000 or more. 82% of them have a postgraduate education, and this is made up by 67% of adults between the ages of 30 and 64. Now, your crypto donor, on the other hand, is going to be a little bit younger, as you can see here. These are Gen Z and millennials. Average age is 38. 45% of these donors are known to give over $1,000 or more. Their average income is also $111,000, which is much higher than the national average. So culminating all of those factors, you do have a higher than average donation size of $6,500. That's what we saw last year. Another interesting tidbit about these crypto donors, since it seems like some of you might be new to this space and a lot of you aren't accepting crypto donations yet, is this is a donor that is not only young, they are tech savvy, they're financially literate, they're also pretty engaged in social media. So it truly is a wonderful type of donor to add into your constituency, especially if you continue to cultivate and steward them. So this is a potential lifetime donor for you, which is something that I'm sure you're all looking forward to grow, especially if you're focusing on that new donor acquisition. Okay, so giving by generation. So the matures generation, we also know these as the silent generation. These are individuals in their mid 80s to late 90s. A majority of this generation does prioritize giving in their later years, which is amazing. Actually, 78% of people. A lot of these donations are coming from your direct mail solicitations. They might be attending your gala, major gifts, but also legacy giving. 78% are going to give money to charities. Again, that's huge. But there is a focus to get younger because these individuals are on the older side. So we'll go into the boomers. These are between 59 and 77 years old. They do prefer to give stock, and most give to charities as well, just a little bit less than that older generation. Their preferred asset is stocks. Gen X is the next one we'll touch on. That average age is between 43 and 58. About half give to charities, a little bit lower than average yearly donation of $921. Their preferred asset is stock. And then as we get down to millennials, half are giving to charities. That's pretty impressive. A little smaller than average yearly donation, but their preferred asset is crypto and stock. And then Gen Zs, 44% are giving to charities, $341 as their yearly donation, and their preferred asset is crypto and stock. So their preferred assets they're expanding as they're getting older. People are expanding outside stock because these are your what we call digital native philanthropists that have really grown up with the internet and they want to do everything online. So they are more digitally focused. All right, so younger donors and non-cash and the correlation. So the average age of people opening up a brokerage account is under the age of 35. And another great stat is over 90% of millennial millionaires have crypto exposure. So this is a great demographic for you all to start prioritizing. I do hear from a lot of nonprofits and even from my own experience. I live in Sarasota, Florida. This is a retirement community. So a lot of nonprofits do have an older donor base. As we can see, like most of the baby boomers and the matures are giving. So you're looking to expand to get younger, and prioritizing the younger individuals is going to be so important. And it doesn't matter if you have any younger individuals in your current constituency yet, but this is why we're having this conversation. So we're giving you important information to know as you start to create your strategy and engage younger donors and prioritize that new donor acquisition. Next slide, please. All right, so this is my most favorite topic to speak about, is the great wealth transfer. So this has already started and will be accelerating in the near future. Around $68 trillion will be exchanged from baby boomer generation and will be going into the hands of Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X. An estimated 10% of that wealth is going to be, it's predicted to be going into the hands of nonprofits. So you all want to be ready for that to happen. That's in the ballpark about $6.3 trillion. So again, you want to make sure you're having these conversations with your donors and they are making the most of their gifts, making it the most tax efficient for them, while also making the most impact to your mission. And now I'm going to toss it back over to Jack.
Awesome. So as we continue here, folks, let's start to talk about some of the tips, tricks, tools that we can use to start identifying, engaging these major donors. Because remember, it all comes down to cultivating those relationships. And so the first step, right, finding those folks. Now, I will say it's likely that all of you already have some major donors within your database or the tools that you use. As you build donor profiles over time, whether via nonprofit software or even via spreadsheets, though we know it's not as ideal, that's what you're going to need to be using to capture those preferences and interests. These preferences, previous giving histories to your own organization can help you segment these donors into various buckets. You could segment them based on their giving potential, based on past giving. These examples you see here on screen are just some of the queries within Giveffect that you can run. And so again, whether you're thinking of looking at folks in terms of the largest gift they've ever made to your organization, maybe you're more interested in seeing their average gift amount, lifetime giving. Do we know who their employer is a really important question. Can that even be a relationship that we harness into a much larger opportunity, whether that be on the level of sponsorships down the line or other forms of institutional giving, maybe even some gift matching campaigns as we think about employers and employees. But lastly, an important option to tie in, at least to the agenda for this presentation, is you could absolutely analyze by giving method, right? Because folks do typically give in the same method over time. So look at your existing donor pool and look at whether they tend to give via cash, via stock, DAF, crypto, and so on and so forth. So that, again, you could use that data to your own benefit and target folks even more strategically. These are just some examples as to how you could think about analyzing folks. Let's continue here with more tips to leverage tech. Is tip number one, actually have a place where you can store this information for your donors. If you are currently using any CRM platform, I know we asked a lot of you folks, almost everyone mentioned something, which is fantastic to see. But that is basically right. The core function of what that tool is meant for is to store that contact information and store those histories. It's a heck of a lot easier than spreadsheets. I know I'm not alone in saying that. Now, the previous slide we mentioned, right, was about running reports to identify trends among your donors. But you might be thinking, well, Jack, I don't have that data yet, right? Here are some other tips you can use to leverage your own tech and start to actually collect and use that data so we can report on it. What can you do? Ask them the questions you want answers to, okay? In a lot of software, a lot of tools, you can add these custom questions to your online forms, whether it be in your actual giving form, maybe it's sending out surveys, embed them within your newsletters or other types of email marketing campaigns. You would then be able to use these responses accordingly to inform your outreach. Trust me, you have to ask the question. Most everyone is willing to give you those answers at the end of the day. More on that later. Another tip is you could use what we call data mapping here at Giveffect. And so just an example you're seeing here on screen is as you're building any of your different online fundraising campaigns, let's just say we're working with the Giving Tuesday campaign, for example. You can have donors who give to that campaign tagged into that specific donor group so that you can easily identify that list of donors in the future as you run your reports. But we can also think forward looking. Think about your communication going forward so that as I prepare for my 2023 Giving Tuesday campaign, again, I can readily identify those folks who gave last year, and maybe I can use that information to target these donors for a higher ask, right? Again, being more strategic in our appeals over time. Final point for this slide is just you might be thinking, Jack, I don't have the time to set up these things based on my current roles and responsibilities. That's why I would say you also always want to be looking for tools that offer automation for any of these steps. At Giveffect, we have what we call our workflow automation. Just one example. Instead of manually querying and sending your communications to folks, whether that be email, direct mail, and so on, SMS even for those younger generations, have your nonprofit software identify those donors for you, right? So again, as they give or as they engage in other activity with your organization, they're automatically being targeted and being put into those communication funnels. That way, this is allowing you and your team to deepen your relationship with those donors and be more efficient at the same time. It does not have to be that trade-off between the two, right? In terms of building relationships and managing our time, because we all know it's limited. Moving forward here, some tips specific to DAFs. Coming back to that, number one, you be consistent in how you're tracking this data. You do want to use a technology that allows for tracking both the hard credit and soft credit aspects of a DAF. What do I mean by that? For folks who may not be familiar, let's say we have a donor, Lisa Simpson. She creates a DAF at Fidelity and deposits some money. Lisa is the person who's hard credited by Fidelity and receives those tax benefits of giving. What happens next? Lisa learns of your nonprofit and tells Fidelity that she wants to disperse some of that DAF money to your organization. At this stage, it's Fidelity that's actually giving you the money. Let's say they're the ones cutting that check. Fidelity is the hard creditor, whereas Lisa is now the soft creditor, again, because she already gained those benefits at the previous stage. Put it more simply, find tools that can allow you to thank your donors appropriately, right? Obviously, acknowledgement is probably the biggest piece, one of the biggest pieces when we talk about building these relationships and deepening them. And second, from a reporting standpoint, of course, this can allow you to accurately share with your board or other points of leadership what percentage of your fundraising is coming in via this giving method. If this is one of our strategies to diversify, obviously we want to show that ROI, and so find the tools that allow you to easily do that. Moving forward here to talk about, so far we've talked about different ways you can identify major donors and build off that data, but another crucial piece is actually connecting your donors to your nonprofit's mission. These two things go hand in hand, both your data and these emotional connections. Again, these go hand in hand as you try to build these relationships. If you aren't already, communicate your goals to your donors so that they understand and can see the importance explicitly of why you need their support. What's that buy-in? What's enticing them? What's that story you're telling to get them engaged? When donors understand how much they're actually able to make an impact to your organization, they do tend to get more involved and give more. So again, if we're thinking about increasing gift size, right, telling that story, connecting them to your mission even more than you already are is a great strategy to employ. And the second bullet here goes back to a little bit what we've mentioned before, is you do have to know your donor base. I know we talked about identifying folks based off giving method, but obviously also identify them based off of how they like to be communicated with, right? Is this a person that tends to open most of the emails they send you? Are they most receptive to your direct mail campaigns? As we mentioned, right, more for older folks, let's say, or for younger generations, thinking about SMS or social media. You need to make note of these preferred methods and timing for communications, so you can ensure that these asks rather are always well received, right? You're catching them basically where they want to be caught, rather than just sending them something random. All right, and a second part to this is, again, as we think about employing storytelling and personalizing this, you really need to do this across the board. Don't limit this to just your email communications in and of themselves. We need consistency across the board, right? Tell these stories throughout your website. Again, how these gifts have enabled various outcomes for your organizations. What's the impact being demonstrated? Because again, as folks go through these various channels, what you're doing is you're demonstrating that social proof, so they can see that, connect with the stories you're telling, and be more incentivized to take action. We have an example here, thinking about personalizing email campaigns using replacement variables. This actually gets back to using your data. Now that you know your donors' preferences and giving history, you can start to more directly personalize the communications you send them. Again, we want to be as strategic and targeted as possible with these communications. In this example, you see here two things are actually happening. There's a replacement variable in the text body, or merge field, you may know them as, that actually tweaks the amount of the ask or the appeal based on the individual donor opening that email. So just an example, say your standard appeal in this email is $50. But if you're sending this to a donor, let's say someone like myself who has given more than that in terms of my most recent donation, that's the number I'll see. So again, maybe I gave 2 months ago $200. It'll prompt me here. Again, it's personalized to me specifically with that $200 amount rather than the baseline of 50. Okay. And so again, as all your various donors or other folks are engaging with this, they get that most strategic ask without you having to do any of that segmentation yourself. It's actually built in to the replacement variable, just one technology that's out there. Secondly here, we also have behind a donate button, think about options such as what we would call personalized checkout pages. So again, let's say I'm the person receiving this email and my average gift amount for this nonprofit is $1,000. When I click that donate button, the suggested donation amounts will be increased so as to reflect my personal giving history, compared to, say, a person that's never donated before. They'll just see your default suggested donation amounts within your online form. In summary, as a nonprofit, I'm increasing my chances of gaining a larger gift from my major donors than I perhaps otherwise would have. And so your suggestions here could be more aligned with your donors' giving capacity, right? We don't want to ask folks who have given so much in the past, for another $20. We know that capacity is much higher for those folks. Let's take advantage of that as we move forward in any of our appeals. All right. And lastly here, these are just some options we want you guys to think about in terms of encouraging these donations, right? Because again, we have to be proactive about this. We can't be reactive. We can't have these folks just come to us. Being proactive is going to allow us to be that much more effective at the end of the day. So one, advertise that you actually accept, right? These giving methods, right? Folks aren't going to know unless you tell them. And so again, whether that's on your website, whether that's on the specific campaign page that you're driving people towards, let's say for an upcoming event, advertise, let people know. Okay. And even with that, they may not know of those new giving methods. I know Carly's given us great information here today as far as the benefits of giving via stock or DAF or what have you, crypto. These folks may not know of those benefits, right, in terms of their previous history. And so education is another important piece to this. Don't assume they already know. Educate them as much as possible so they're starting off on the right foot and not perhaps getting intimidated because they aren't quite sure what you're asking them to do or informing them about. Remind your donors of important deadlines for them and for you. So if it's, let's say if we're going again with the DAF route, if they want to receive those end of year tax benefits, they're going to need to make that gift into their DAF right before the end of the year. Or maybe we're thinking about campaign deadlines, let's say for a capital campaign that you're running, right? What's that cutoff date in terms of them being able to give to that impact, to that program rather, for your organization. And finally here, make it as easy as possible, right? Fewer clicks, less time spent basically, right, make it as easy as possible to accept these different non-cash assets. Just one example, this is actually because of our wonderful partnership with the Giving Block. This is one of our embeddable donation forms that folks will use. And you can actually see, right, that cryptocurrency is one of those offered options. And so again, right, they don't have to go to some other online form rather than the standard one on the website, for example. It's already built into the form itself. So again, fewer steps that a donor may have to take in order to engage and give through that channel. All right. On to some takeaways. A lot of information today, folks.
And that was so great, Jack. I especially loved at the end of how important it is to let your donors know and especially prioritize that tax education, because even though you might be working with a savvy philanthropist or one of your high net worth donors, they might not necessarily know the tax benefits, especially with your crypto donors as well. So, you know, you've got to be able to provide them with all the ways that they want to give. And also, again, tax education, let them know that they can give the way that they would like to. We'll go ahead and go over a few more takeaways. So we want you to build out your donor profiles and communicate your mission and focus on donor stewardship. Obviously, that's so important for you to continue to do all throughout the whole entire year. Giveffect can give you the benefits of a 10-in-1 nonprofit software solution to help you with all that good stuff like Jack was showing you earlier. Then we want you to choose your non-cash asset giving platform. You can talk to the Giving Block, find out a little bit more about what we do since we just kind of touched on the benefits. Then we want you to create options for donors to give to donate crypto stock and DAFs on your page. Just under your other ways to give, we want to give them as many options as possible. And we also want to make sure that your site is SEO optimized for crypto donations specifically, and where your donation form sits, because a lot of people are just on their phone. They might not even have a laptop, especially with the younger generation, since they're always head down. And then we want you to announce publicly that you accept all these assets, and then always continue to remind your donors, especially with your end of year asks. That's so important. And announce it on social media, scream it from the rooftops, put it in your direct mail, like a QR code where they can scan. I was just at the Bridge conference, and I know some nonprofits are hesitant of putting their brokerage instructions in direct mail. So a QR code is a good way to get them to your donation widget to give directly that way without kind of going through the hassle, because I used to have to process stock donations and it is a pain, and this makes it a dream. So yeah, we want you to publicly announce it all the ways that you can. And then we want you to work with ideally a member of one of our teams to learn how to really earn, convert, and steward these donors and truly optimize your fundraising. So that kind of takes us to the end here. Thank you all so much for joining. I hope you learned something. If you'd like to learn more from Giveffect or from the Giving Block, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. And let us know if you want to get in touch so we can chat more. We also have QR codes that you can scan. So we'll put this up for a minute or so where you can all let us know if you want to connect. And we can go ahead and jump into some questions. So if anything's come up, I did answer one question in the chat. How to get donors interested in stock donations, Jennifer? Well, you have to let them know about the tax benefits and that you accept it. I really think that's the biggest thing. And you know, having those one-on-one conversations with the donors is so huge. That's just kind of like basic where I would start. And also, as Jack was showing you, if you look into your database with the gift sizes, more than likely those are donors that have stock, because a majority of Americans do have it. And I've seen also some of you use wealth screening software. That's always super helpful as well. Oh, and Jessica, we work with professional advisors in the area. If they are an advocate for you, they can help direct their funds, direct their clients towards this asset. Yes, we are working on that, trying to build partnerships with different traditional financial institutions all over the US. But Jessica, if you have anyone in mind in particular, would love to chat with them. Any particular site for tax benefits of donors? I think what you're asking is like, what is the tax benefit of making a donation of non-cash assets? Well, they don't have to pay a capital gains tax. So that money that would be going up to the government, being paid up to the IRS, is now able to go into your mission to help you forward all the amazing work all of you nonprofits do. Anything else? Can you give us an idea of the cost of the Giving Block to accept crypto donations and stocks more easily? Yes, Lexi, we will set you up with an account executive to talk you through all the options that we have to offer. And then one more, any deduction for the value of the assets donated? Not quite sure. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean for that question, Dr. Andreas? Oh, Faith, love to hear that you're interested. Jack, can you speak a little about the integration between Giveffect and the Giving Block and how it works?
Yeah, happy to. So folks, if you're interested in learning more, absolutely scan those QR codes. But to answer the question, basically what you'll do is obviously you'll need to get in touch with the Giving Block first. We even provide direct contact information that you could use, of course, assuming that you're partnering with us at Giveffect as well. But let me even pull this up on my end here, just to say that once you have gotten in touch with the Giving Block, mention, right, that you are an existing Giveffect client. They'll be able to give you what we would call your Giving Block organization ID. That's basically going to be the information that's used to connect your accounts, so that like you saw in the previous slide, if folks just using crypto as one example, that is powered through the Giving Block, right? So folks would be able to pull up their crypto wallets, transfer those funds, and have that be processed directly into the Giving Block. Again, rather than having a more disjointed approach, it's definitely a huge benefit to have it all in one form. And that's just one benefit from the integration. All right.
I saw one other question here. Do either of you work with CRMs, for example, Blackbaud? Yeah, at the Giving Block, we do work with Blackbaud via Omatic and Salesforce. We work with Neon One, and there might be one more that I'm forgetting, but that's off the top of my head. Jack, do you work with any other CRMs?
So we have our own CRM products, so we typically don't have partnerships there, but we do certainly offer other integrations for other kinds of tools, whether they be the Giving Block is one, donor search as far as wealth screening is one that we offer. So again, build that into one place. Double the donation, just think about gift matching, MailChimp, just one option on the email marketing side. So a number of partners there, even QuickBooks, when thinking about your financials, syncing with your QuickBooks online, if that is what you're using for your reconciliation, just some of the partners that we work with. Awesome. And I guess I should say, I'm sorry, final one is just that, we don't partner with other CRMs because again, we'd be the replacement for those existing tools. And so just again, hammering that major benefit is to have all that information in one place rather than 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different silos or tools that your team is having to work across. So all that data is going into one place. You have that 360-degree view of what your folks are doing. So again, just to provide a bit more info about Giveffect for those who aren't familiar.
All right, great. Well, I think we're coming to a close here. Thank you all again so much for joining us. Hopefully you have learned a lot. We will be reaching out to those of you that want to learn more about our products. And then in addition to that, we'll be sending follow-up email with the recording in case you want to watch it again, share it with a colleague. Yeah, and I wish everyone to have an amazing Wednesday, and we'll look forward to hopefully talking to some of you soon. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye.